Explain like I'm 5 that the Earth is definitely not hollow, not even a bit, not even large caverns 1,000 kilometers deep. How can it be a mathematical fact that the Earth is not hollow other than man-made mines and the like? To my understanding, the math doesn't even leave the possibility of very large caverns 1,000 kilometers below the mantle to exist. The deepest we have ever drilled was 22 kilometers deep, and the Schiehallion experiment seems to mathematically prove that simply due to gravity, there cannot be any i.e. massive tunnel network. Well, what would the walls and ceiling be made out of? It would have to be something that could hold up mountains above it, withstand a crazy amount of pressure and heat, and naturally form. Rock and stone are pretty tough stuff, but not when you put a mountain on top of them. The caves we have are all near the surface because things near the surface have less stuff on top of them. X200b. It just is. You already answered your own question in your question when you said that gravity does not allow the Earth to be hollow. Large bodies can't be hollow. Gravity would not support any large voids in the Earth. Tunnels and mine shafts and caves in the Earth's crust can exist because the crust is strong and there's not much material above it. But the mantle is like a viscous solid. You can't have tunnels or voids in a soft solid because the weight of the stuff above it would collapse it. Same applies to the outer and inner core. It's just physically not possible. Pressures on the inside are so huge that they can crush rocks and make diamonds. If not even rocks themselves can hold up to these pressures, much less would caves. Explain like I'm 5. The Earth is very, very big and everything gets heavy when there is a lot of it. There is so much stuff on the very, very big Earth that when you go down far enough, it gets so heavy it even squishes rocks. Just how you can make a sand castle with walls and even small tunnels. But if you step on it, it all clumps together. That happens to all caves and big cracks when there is enough weight on them. What a strange question. I'd actually ask the reverse. How could it be a mathematical fact that the Earth is hollow? That, to me, seems the far more unbelievable proposition. Pretend you went into a restaurant and ordered chocolate lava cake. That lava cake is like the Earth. You might look at the lava cake and on its surface see cracks or other imperfections, but if you poked a hole into it or cut it in some way, you'd see its gooey center begin to leak out. The Earth is exactly like that cake. Its inside isn't completely solid. While the exterior of the Earth may harden in such a way that cracks or crevices exist in some spots, the interior never hardens into a solid. The Earth crust also renews itself over long periods of time and is not static. You know how geologists can detect the vibrations of an earthquake? A strong earthquake actually has enough energy to detect the vibrations on the other side of the planet. This is possible because the center of the Earth is mostly made up of rock, with a lot of that rock being liquid. Before these measurements were possible, there were a number of people who thought the Earth might be hollow, but now it's not even a popular fake theory. You have seen that submarine that went to the Mariana Trench and was crushed. And that was pressure of just 11 kilometers of water pressing on it. Typical rock is 5 times or more heavier than water of the same volume. So large cavities would have to be relatively close to the surface. If you go deep enough, everything is molten, or at least softened by heat. Aside from the immense weight of all the material above pushing down, the deeper you go, the temperature rises, and basically everything between the crust and the core is liquid. We know this because of how seismic waves travel through the Earth. If there were caves, we would be able to detect them. If the Earth were hollow, then the entire mass of Earth would be in just its shell. The rock wouldn't be strong enough to withstand the gravity trying to crush the hollow ball of rock. Also, where would the lava even come from and what would heat it up? Apart from a thin shell, everything is molten. So buoyancy would make this bubbles go up. And even though the thin shell is solid on large scales and forces it is liquid, and bubbles would pop through due to tremendous forces. You ever watch those hydraulic press videos where they crush solid objects? It's like that. Imagine a box. The walls of the box are the rock, and the hollow space inside the box is the cavern, getting crushed on every side by a hydraulic press. The box will just crumple. That's basically how it is. The Earth is made up of a lot of heavy stuff, and all that stuff is constantly pushing against and crushing each other. Stone is strong. It is true. But it is also heavy. Deeper you are, more stone above you. And you must support more weight. Like an ocean. You can easily dive couple meters deep. No problem. Going deeper and deeper is harder and harder. Deep enough and you will be crushed to death with all the water above you. Same thing happens with stone underground. This has to do with the reason why the Earth, and other planets and large moons, are all roughly spherical. If you have an object that is big enough, its gravity overcomes the forces that hold rocks together, and crushes them into a sphere, which can then be distorted by the planet's spin. This is why all the planets are spherical, even though they're made of very different materials. Because Earth doesn't work like Minecraft. Gravity is in effect here, and rocks beneath the surface get crushed by everything above it. Use that Titanic submarine as a guide on what pressure does at those depths, and then imagine that it's a much higher pressure, and the material you're making the walls of your caves with is more like a sludge than a solid. When large earthquakes happen, the way the seismic waves travel around and across the globe gives insight in what the properties of the different layers of the Earth are. Gravity measurements, seismic data, and drilling depths debunk hollow Earth theories. Scientific evidence negates vast caverns below. We have literally measured the Earth's gravitation's pull on a very fine level. It would be radically different if the Earth was hollow. Large cavern is a vague term. What do you mean by large cavern? The deepest mines on Earth are only a few kilometers. Because any deeper than that, the pressure from the overlying kilometers of rock is so great that the rock walls of a tunnel will literally explode because you removed the material keeping it intact. If you want to see it in action, YouTube rockbursts, and you will find a video of a tunnel boring machine going under the Andes. The rocks on the ceiling are literally exploding above the workers' heads as they ride the machine through the ground. Imagine the pressure at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Now go 3 times deeper. But instead of water, it's rock. Now keep going. No. Keep going. Further. Deeper. Well done. You've reached 100 kilometers. Now x that by 10. If you understand what happened to that submersible 3000 m down in the liquid ocean earlier this year, then you should be able to understand that if you scale up the pressures and depths exponentially, there is no physical way cavities can exist in the Earth for obvious reasons. So, question. What about underground caverns and caves? There are natural caves that lead below the surface? Should clarify. Not questioning the consensus. Just asking for clarification. The crust is a very thin layer on the Earth over a largely molten rock metal core. Those deep layers are too hot to sustain large cavities. And the crust where caves are is very thin relative to the whole Earth. Like the candy shell on a chocolate M&M. If we could theoretically cool the passage while drilling and maintain a constant cold temp along the drilled shaft, would it be potentially stable?